repeatedly accuse. Let me see. How can I write this? Okay, it's when like a group of people, particularly we'll use white people for this particular case to apply it to white people in the racial dialogue, right? They constantly get accused of a negative moral trait, like let's say racism or white privilege or white guilt or something like that, right? And it's not based on their particular actions. And I'm talking, but it's based on the group. So a lot of white people are gonna come in, the form of, it's gonna be told to them like, hey, look, you're complicit in white supremacy. You're a white supremacist. You're a racist. You're privileged. It doesn't matter. You're benefiting from oppression. And when these white people start to, like, I think at first people are going to want to try to engage. So they're going to read about it. They're going to try to learn a little bit more about it. And then they're going to get into the conversation because they're going to get curious about it. But then what's happening is they are not met with any type of solution. They're not met with first there's no encouragement. So they're instead like, when they get more curious or if they start to push back because they're challenging and trying to make sense of what they're learning, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's, it doesn't even matter. Your empathy is insufficient. Your allyship is performative, whatever it might be. Your silence is violence. There's a bunch of shit that I've heard, right? And what happens is over time, this is going to create an emotional exhaustion, and it's going to create like a sense of futility. And they're going to be like, you know what? If I'm going to be labeled a racist no matter what, if I'm going to be accused of having, a white privilege and that I'm complicit in this white supremacy, the classical psychological aspect of learned helplessness happens. And that's just what repeated like failure leads to when someone's trying to stop something. So basically, because we don't have a lot of times in these discussions, we don't have we don't have a descriptive a descriptive guideline to what white people can do. We don't offer them like these are the things that you can specifically do in your life today that can change. They start to experience what's another psychological phenomenon, because this is what the accusatory fatigue cycle is. They experience reactance.
I need you to land, Nebraska.
So it's okay. And so that is a psychological pushback against feeling morally coerced. So then they're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna, they just end up withdrawing and resenting the conversation altogether, not because they reject justice, but because they're no longer feeling that there's a path to moral dignity for them in it, and a frustration with it all. So I think overall, and I'll land here, is I think that it's not that the white fatigue, because I do believe, I do agree with Alaska. I'm not sure it's so much fragility as much as it's rooted in something deep, like a deeper psychological reaction to being like morally damned by default. But the good thing is that it can be broken by just offering opportunity and an honest dialogue and a place for them to go and to make the changes, so they don't have to feel that way.
Thank you, Nebraska. Man, I love when you share, but I don't know how you don't pass out from a lack of oxygen. Because you talk like a New Yorker. You're so fast. But hold on, Nicholas. Because I want to go to Alaska, and then I'll come to you. Alaska, you wanted to chime in?
Yeah. I'm really, really interesting what Bima said. I was just trying to, what was I going to say? Oh my goodness, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, when I was learning about words and things, I learned that even the word racism, the ism implies system. So sexism, racism. I can't think of any other examples, which is weird. But just to throw that in.
You want me to come back to you?
Oh no, it's just mainly that. And also adding to what Bima said, the idea of cognitive dissonance is a subject I find super interesting. And it's very hard because you go between obviously wanting to educate people but wanting to keep your peace in certain areas. And it feels like it's an education thing that really should be discussed. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to stop there. Sorry.
No, you're good, LS, but thank you. So let me just address two things in the chat. Anybody that engages with Frank, you're on your own. He's an idiot. I wouldn't even address this idiot. And chillism sucks. Fuck chillism. Bunch of racist assholes in there. Just my opinion. The great Nicholas, how you doing?
So, Mother Superior is here. Hi, the great JB. So, I got a couple of things. So, do you suffer from racial fatigue? Yeah, this app is, I'm exhausted. Like, I don't, I've reached a point where I just don't care. And I think maybe that is, I don't know, becoming desensitized to certain things. Like, people say horrendously racist things, and I'm like, oh, it's Tuesday. And I used to be like, oh, wow, look at these people. How could they say these things? And then I'm like, oh, this is just another one of those people on Clubhouse. And I don't know if that's healthy to not have to not even flinch anymore. Also, another thing I'm getting into. Oh, fuck, am I in the Matrix?
No, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so another thing I'm becoming desensitized to is the whole Israel situation. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about them. They're 1,000 miles away from me and have no impact on my life. Why do I care so much about Israel? So that's another thing. And then the third thing is just like subtly racist things. Like, you can run an analysis in your brain sometimes, like, is this even worth my time to address? And for me, it's just, the answer is increasingly becoming no. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, the great Nicholas. I'm going to say, man, I've been on this app 5 years, right? Since the beginning. I'm an OG. And at the beginning, man, people would say covert racial undertones, right? They would say things like, what does he or she mean? Now it's the Wild West. People will say whatever the fuck they want. They don't care. And here's the thing. I think a lot of people who say those things actually mean those things. That's how they really feel. Right? And this gives them a platform. Frank, I'm not bringing you up, you moron. JT, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, JB. No, you made an excellent point right there, too. I would say I experienced the same thing to where now it is certain rooms, you could just expect to get what you're going to get when you go in there. But I wanted to kind of speak to what the sister was saying earlier about what white people can do. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be brief and just saying, I think on a macro level, and I know you have a lot of these rooms, I think reparations is obviously the next step in comparative justice. But on a micro level, you know, right now with this administration, we're seeing a lot of changes taking place that affect, you know, Black people in general. We've seen them wipe away affirmative action. We've seen them with the DEI hiring rhetoric. It's always an attack on Black Americans, right? We see them with now, what is it that he's doing now? Oh yeah, when he first got in, he was trying to wipe away funding to HBCUs. He was trying to get rid of Blacks in the military, Black history. I mean, there's just a whole host of things that have taken place since Trump office, and you know, our white quote-unquote allies have been silent about it. I've seen almost no pushback. So I guess the question I'm asking, if people are really serious about an allyship, trying to find out what can be done to help Black people, I mean, we can start with just the things that you do have the power to change. You are the majority, right? If you speak out on things, people are at least going to listen. You're at least going to have media attention. On your jobs, where you're seeing, you know, things that are taking place in administration, you know, just I'm sorry, I know y'all can hear that. Just subtle things like that, where you can be effective, just trying to be a decent human being. I think people can start there.
Wait, I have a question for JT.
Wait, hold on, Nye. Let me just say something. I brought Frank up. We're going to let him speak after you guys have this dialogue, and I'm going to show you why this guy's a moron. Okay?
I know, I'll make this quick, and this is in response to JT's submission, and anyone else in the stage or in the chat can address this as well. JT, curious to know your thoughts on this. I mean, the narrative has long been that Black people benefit the least from DEI and affirmative action, that the primary benefactors of these initiatives, these programs, have long been white women. So, A, what do you think about that narrative? And B, if that is true, if the numbers and data and per capita and all these other terms we like to quote prove that that's true, how
does the dismantling of DEI and affirmative action impact Black folks?
Well, I would say that both are true. I am aware of that. I think my overall point is that, I'm sorry, I'm driving, as I can hear. I think the overall point in that is that if we know that these things have a negative effect on the Black community that we say that we're allying with, because I mean, that was one component of the overall statement. When we consider what he was doing with the Black military, when we consider what he was doing, wiping away the history of Black success out of the American annals of history, right? It all fits. That's just one part of it. And the point that overall point that I was making is that if we see these things are happening as an American society and we submit to the idea that we're supposed to be morally just, justice for all, equality. If we're saying we're moving past racism and all of these things, where are all the white people to stand up and say, wait a minute, these Black Americans who've been here since the beginning, fought in every war, who've been citizens in this country, they have a right to be a part of this history. And we need to stop, trying to ostracize them from American society and constantly attacking them racially. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but I would say those two things, DEI and affirmative action, are really just parts of an overall bigger problem when it comes to what's taking place with this administration, how it's affecting Black.
JT, let me say something here. Yeah, I agree that other communities could definitely do more for the Black community, but it's been my lived experience from what I've seen, and if it don't apply, people let it fly. The Black community, in my opinion, hasn't been very welcoming to help from other communities. And that's fine. They want to do it on their own. They want to, whatever that is, that's fine. But I got to tell you, bro, I get, how much smoke I get for opening these rooms? 1,000,000%. I get so much smoke. How dare this white man in the corner even bring up issues and talk about the Black community? Well, maybe I want to learn about the Black community. But look, before we continue, JT, let me introduce their esteemed Frank. Frank, are you there? Frank.
I'm here.
Do you want to chime in on this stimulating conversation? Do you suffer from racial fatigue?
Can you repeat what you said? Because it's pretty complicated. Because I'm not full like you.
Why would you come to the stage if you don't know what we're talking about?
I can talk. I can talk, but I can.
Well, then talk on the subject. What are we talking about? Do you suffer from racial fatigue? Yes or no?
Yeah, I can speak.
You see, this is what I warn people about this moron. Nobody listens to me. All right, go sit in the audience. Have another bottle of wine, fucking moron. B, good morning, B.
Yeah, good morning.
What up, B-licious?
Hello, Nine.
B, do we suffer from racial fatigue?
I personally don't. After leaving Oregon, I'll be honest, every time I go to like a blue state, even though New York is a blue state, New York is different because people are about their business, doing what they have to do. But being in Oregon, it's just, I do suffer from fatigue because there's always so many questions. Is that your hair? Are those your lips? Explain this to me. What's your thoughts on George Floyd? I'm like, okay, you know what? I just wanted to come and have a roasted tomato bagel. Okay, it's just with a chai tea. Like, go Google this stuff. So no, in New York I don't have racial fatigue. In Oregon I'm wore out, honey. Child, I'm wore out. I'm tired.
Thank you, B. Vera, did you want to push back on the Blacks being moved out of the military?
I just questioned it. Is that true? I tried to look it up. I didn't find any evidence on it. I mean, when I was in the military, we had lots of Black people. I think, I grew up as such a sheltered lifestyle. I grew up on a farm most of my life in Texas. So it was just me and my immediate family, and then just all them were mainly like a Mexican area. And so, like, honestly, my very first Black friend was in the military, because it just wasn't in the neighborhood, right? Mostly Latin. So, like, are Black people being pushed, actually, systematically, whichever, are they being pushed out of the military? Because if so, that's a problem. And if not, then I don't know where we're getting that information from.
Yeah, I didn't know that either, that Black people were being put. I'm sorry, CEO. CEO, is that?
I was just gonna say, I don't know about push out of the military. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Somebody jumped in there. Go ahead.
That was JT.
No. I'm kind of in a bad area, so I might not be able to hear me, brother. So if you got something to say, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the reports that I heard, Vero, Nye, and JB, were that I know factually what happened is that he took several Black heroes, from Tuskegee Airmen to, I think, Buffalo Soldiers, and Black people that had defended the country, down from government websites. And then I think somebody challenged him, and then he put a couple of them back up. He just took Martin Luther King out of the White House. There was a bust of Martin Luther King out of the White House. He obviously took Obama out, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, there's definitely a movement with this administration to erase Black history, to remove the accomplishment of noble Black soldiers.
CEO, you know what's crazy though, and I'm not disputing what you're saying, but what's crazy to me is he has no problems changing these forts back to Confederate general names.
Yeah, well, that's a part of it. That's what I'm saying. He's whitewashing everything. It's almost like the Lost Cause. If people are familiar with the Lost Cause, the short note on it is, after Confederacy died, the Lost Cause was a narrative or a movement to basically whitewash it and make it seem like it wasn't about slavery, and to make all of the people who fought in the Confederacy that were anti-American seem like noble heroes, and to turn it into a thing about culture. And that was basically establishing the names of all these, just like JP said, all these military bases, statues with Confederate heroes, right? That was the Lost Cause. He's doing a new version of that. He's erasing Black history and reestablishing all of the movement of the Lost Cause. So he's literally working like he's a part of the Confederacy to me, from states' right to reestablishing Confederate heroes, to erasing Black people, to banning Black countries, literal with federal bans, to use verbiage and coded words like DEI, woke, and BLM to discriminate against people of color. This is not theoretical. This is factual. I will respond to Nye, a point that you made earlier. You spoke to white women being the chief beneficiaries of the diversity and inclusion program. Well, for what it was worth, it also eliminated benefits for people who are disabled, and a part of that group of legislation, and all other minorities. So yes, if white women in one sector of that, because there's multiple sectors, did get benefits, then that means the system needed to be reformed. So demolishing it doesn't help. So they give us so many talking points to excuse their blatant and overt racism, right? And so, white women benefited a lot. Okay, cool. Because women were traditionally left out of a lot of contracts. I owned a business, right, where we partnered with different companies in a particular sector to bid for government opportunities, right? That whole business model, which is only one element, is completely busted, because now those majority businesses that might be friends with the people that Trump are friends with, they have no need to even have 5% of those billion and trillion dollar government contracts be associated with a minority vendor that's certified. And so it literally busted a lot of wealth from the government by being able to provide services. So if white women were a part of the last one I'll make after this point, if white women were the beneficiaries, it still doesn't remove the fact that Black people obviously were able to get into businesses that they otherwise wouldn't be able to get in because they were locked out. And that's across the board when you really think about it. I'll just stop there and let somebody else speak.
Thank you, CEO. Hold on, JT, because Moose has been patiently waiting. I think he wants to push back on the Army thing. Good morning, Moosey.
Hey, JB. Thank you, man. The mod of mods. Guys, we agree to disagree, but you're a top mod. And I'll say, I think it was Vero and who would ask in the chat about, he's not like sending out, he's not dismissing massive troops of color, but he's doing it. He did it strategically. One of the biggest shakeup he did in the Pentagon was firing Air Force General, not only Air Force General, a decorated fighter pilot, 40 years of service, Air Force General C.Q. Brown, but he was also the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Like, he's in the war room talking about Ukraine, talking about the Middle East, and he, I believe, was only the second black military personnel to hold such an esteemed position. And essentially, it was a major shakeup, and Trump's rebuttal was essentially it was the DEI thing. I mean, we're talking about an impeccable record, and he was dismissed. I think a year and a half into after he was appointed. So, you know, again, it's not hundreds of black soldiers that he's firing, but you can, when you fire somebody at that level, that sends a message. That sends a really strong message. Thanks, JB.
Thank you, Moose. Before I go to JT, I just got to make two quick announcements. This is really a pop-up room. When my puppy's at the groomer, so when I have to pick him up, I'm going to close it down. Moose, you don't have to go down. A second thing, yo, Vera, respectfully, that PTR is fire. JT, go ahead, JT.
Real quick, JB. I shared in the chat too that the military before Trump, they did an annual. They used to hire black engineers into the military. They would do that annually. There was an article talking about it there, where because of, once again, the DEI, where black engineers had an opportunity. That was something that the military had set up a while back that they were doing annually, where they were able to hire from black universities. He shut that down as well, and just certain little things, as everybody else mentioned, where he's specifically targeting, black servicemen and black servicewomen. You know what I'm saying? Just to say, the brother he just mentioned, I wasn't even aware of him, but to have that type of tenure for somebody just to come in who's not a part of the military and just say, oh, no, all your accomplishments, that's all DEI, and just fire them. I mean, that's what we mean when we say, when people see these type of things, like, where are you? Where's your voice? And at the same time, some of those same people who would agree with that, as he mentioned and as you mentioned, will be the same ones whining and crying about Confederate generals who, committed treason against the United States government and tried to take it down, will be celebrated back, in their minds. I think it's just, those are the type of conversations that should be had with our quote unquote.
Thank you. Let me just jump in real quick, guys. Two seconds. So, Sarah, I'm going to say something to you respectfully, right? Because we share a lot of spaces together. And I'm going to keep it 100 with you, right? You do say a lot of racist shit. I don't know if you give a fuck or not, right? But here's the deal. Iran is under attack by Israel. Your people are being oppressed and suppressed by the Iranian regime. And I've heard you in these rooms basically want people to feel bad for your people. But when you come out of the side of your mouth and say anti-black things, yeah, that's kind of hypocritical to me. I'm sorry. I just got to say what it is. Let's go to Vera, then CEO, then Keith.
Yeah, for sure. My experience in the military, it doesn't just revolve around my personal experience in the military. My mother's a Marine. My two brothers, my two sisters are Marines. Grandfather was in the Army. It's just uncle. You can't put your arms too far out in my family without hitting someone who served, right? Continuously, my 18-year-old niece just joined the Marine Corps. So, this whole decorated, and I'm decorated. I'm very decorated. You know what I'm saying? If you're in the military for 40 years, you are decorated. You are established. You cannot be in the military for 40 years without being an outstanding individual. Another thing in the military they try to teach us, it's not racist here, it's not gendered here. They do teach us women how to bend down, quote unquote, correctly, so we don't entice the men, of course. So What I'm saying is I don't put it past them to do some racist ass shit, you know, if it doesn't fit their agenda. And I talked about this yesterday. If you move in the military, if you move away from the agenda, they push you out quick. So my sentiment is, although I have not seen that with my own eyes, I did get out of the military in 2015, so during Obama. So it was a different world, right? We haven't even pulled out of Afghanistan just yet. I had just gotten home from Afghanistan, so it was a different world. But today, I don't know. Maybe because they don't fit, because they're black and they don't fit into the agenda, we can call it racism. But even if they were white and they weren't fitting into the agenda, they'd be pushed out the same way, I believe, honestly. Or Latin.
Well, I have to say, Ms. Vero, respectfully, if you don't want to entice men, don't wear that dress, because fine. Just gotta say
I'm
that.
out now, so I'm gonna entice all y'all motherfuckers.
It's working. But I'm going to go to CO, and then I want to welcome Keith and Sarah to the stage. CO?
I think I forgot what the hell I was going to say. Oh, yeah, I was just going to mention that there's a librarian. Oh, yeah, I got it. The librarian, obviously, similar to the general that the gentleman just mentioned. Thank you for the point about that general. I'm familiar with that. I want to even get into my family members that were discriminated against that had long-standing positions and high rank in the government and in the military. But yeah, that person was done wrong, and he's so decorated. Similar situation with the head librarian at the National Library. She has a decorated career, has every degree you would ever think of, survived several different Republican and Democratic regimes, and Trump fired her and just literally appointed to be the head of the National Library, a lawyer with basically zero experience working in law anywhere. And the only thing that he has is he's just white. So when we talk about the racism and discrimination against our culture and the removal of DEI, he's using DEI. He's using diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's just using it now exclusively for white people. And I think he's literally exploiting the white fatigue and with hearing the word racism. I think he literally plays into that. And that's one of the main reasons that people support him, because it's given license to say things that they've already feel with this fatigue. So I think the room title is a really good point. But at the end of the day, I just mentioned these 3 points and I'm done. The interns for both of his terms in office, if you just look at the picture of the interns, right? And then look at every other president for the past 40 years, you see different flavors of people. His interns, only white. Literally, there might be one black person out of 100. His cabinet, traditionally only white. So yeah, there's diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's just gone and